Hey, hello everybody. Welcome, welcome. I'm really delighted to see you all here. It's wonderful to have all of you. A lot of people today are joining. I see that it's continuing to grow, so continuing to join. So my name is Sophie Bloom, and I'm the vice chairwoman of the P&G Alumni Women Leadership Forum and the co-chair of the newly created Digital Forum. A lot of title, that's true, but because also a lot is happening in our alumni network. So we are really excited to be all together today. So why are we here? Good question. Of course, for you, first and foremost, that's definitely our first ambition. Also, let me give you a bit of background why we are creating this first crossover, as we talked in the TV series world, okay? Partnering between two forums. In the Women Leadership Forum, our mission is really to empower P&G women alumni to progress in their professional journey. And AI today is very central. I guess you would agree. In the Digital Forum, our ambition is really to empower our alumni to stay ahead, to be connected, to be inspired, to learn, to network, and to connect. There is definitely, I would say, a common ground. Now, in 2023, a survey by JobFlex in the US highlighted a very intriguing fact. The fact was as such, there is a lower, there was, because I'm sure it has changed. There is a lower use of AI by women versus men. 50% of men are using AI in their day-to-day, professionally or personally, versus 35% for women. So despite the fact that you're going to see some fabulous example of women, I would say, leading and founder on AI, and I'm sure the number have changed, it is our duty in the forum to bring the conversation forward. And it is our responsibility. So today, we have three wonderful panelists. Some of them I work closely in P&G, and we have fabulous memories. I think some of them will smile, like creating the new digital business model to incubate new services in Europe, okay? Or leveraging Israel innovative startup landscape to create the first ever global open innovation ecosystem with startup for P&G. Okay, that's already not too bad. But more interestingly, the first ever worldwide for FMCG, for the CPG world. So that was a big deal. It's a model today. So you see we have big shots, a lot, all of them very entrepreneur in their different type of life and activity. And I feel very humbled because indeed it's not every day that you are surrounded by those type of profile. So before going into introducing each of them and giving them the screen, because you will learn from them, I wanted just to make sure that we are all at ease with logistics, first and foremost. We will make it, you know, my style, a little bit, I would say, interactive if possible, a bit informal. If needed, there are some slides. If not, we'll not put slides. Whatever is needed. We will use, you see at the bottom, there is a box that is called Q&A. Please use this Q&A box in order to ask your question. After each panelist talk, we will pause for a moment and we have enough time in order to give you the opportunity to ask questions. Don't put it on the chat because it's very complicated to follow two paths. On the chat, we will only focus on giving you some links. We promise to give you some tips, some tricks, and a bit of behind the scene. So we'll give you everything on the chat, and we will also send you that after with a recording. Okay, I hope that overall we'll manage to, I would say, to go through. This is a very nice topic. So as I will ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves. So we are very, I would say, fortunate today to have, as I was saying, three wonderful panelists. So I'm just going to make sure that everything is, I would say, up. with, I mean, that you can see all of them at once. I always prefer when it's at once. So we have with us Dana Alexandrovich. So Dana is, I would say, currently the COO of Microsoft Israel. So that's we are very delighted to have her with us. We have also with us Raquel Zuzart. Raquel is the founder of a few companies. Some are going to pop up very soon, Q4, but at the moment she's the founder of Equity and CMO. She dives, she lives AI everywhere. She has created personas, interviews. She was in Cannes a few weeks ago. I mean, very, very top-notch, I would say, speaker on AI, and Simon Contreras, who is, I mean, not only, I would say, an expert, big names, of course, like Amazon, like other type of big vendors, but also an expert on digital transformation and especially on AI. So today we have really the privilege to be with all of you. And thank you very much in advance for this fantastic, I would say, opportunity together. So what I would like to ask each of you is to share with us, I would say, the narrative of your journey. And as you do, I would like already you to start giving us a tip on how do you stay ahead. Some of you have some, I would say, some slides in order to illustrate, some not. So we will play with and without slide. What I suggest is maybe, Simon, you start a little bit by telling us a little bit your narrative.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sophie, and thank you for both the invitation and the warm introduction. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. The three things I wanted to share with you: how did we start our journey? I mean, it's unfair to say that it started 1 or 2 years ago when ChatGPT became public. To be true, I had been working on the technology space for the vast part, if not the totality of my career. Back in the days when we didn't even call it machine learning and artificial intelligence. Some of those early modeling happened at P&G. So if you're familiar, in 2002, we were already doing business analytics, right? Using some of the clustering and regression modeling that today are the foundations of what we're seeing in the market. And most recently, and this is where the story goes personal, a couple of months ago, right, I went to spend a weekend with my daughter in New York. We were living in Washington, D.C. at the time, and one of her wishes was to walk with me, right, through the Brooklyn Bridge at the sunset. Okay, so part of that journey, and I would say 40,000 steps later, right, we spent the whole day walking throughout New York. We landed into the Brooklyn Bridge, and again, it's a beautiful picture, don't take me wrong, but it doesn't matter how hard we try. I'm sorry to say, I think that we fail, right? Capturing the beauty of the moment. I mean, she's perfect, but I'm messy. So question is, how can I make that moment even better? How could I improve that capture of that experience? And guess what? I found the latest art generating model from one of the most popular social networks out there, and I gave it a try. I said, you know what? It doesn't cost me a penny, right? Let's see what AI on Facebook has to say about that. Give me a picture of me and my daughter walking through the sunset at the Brooklyn Bridge. And guess what came up? Well, AI thought that I was a lady. So I was flattered, but unfortunately, no, I'm not. So I went through a second try, and I said, you know what? I'm an old man, right? Walking with my 15-year-old daughter. Step 2, another prompt, and this is what happened. Well, it's a better shot. I have to admit, it's closer to reality. Probably the hair a little bit less white, so let's give it a third try. And that's where, again, 3 prompts later, and no more than a couple of minutes, you know what? It came a pretty impressive, I would say, first attempt. Probably my daughter was better in the first picture, but it was just 1 or 2 clicks away from being perfect, from being exactly the idea that I had in mind. And this is where comes the last image. So this is the combination of both the first and the third, showing one more exactly how I envision that moment, how I envision that experience with my daughter. It's a souvenir. It didn't cost a penny, but what I realized is the exponential amount of productivity from being able to create something not even close to that in Photoshop, probably a few hours of work, into getting something like that, right, in just a couple of minutes. That was a revelation. Can you imagine if every creative artist, if every agency, every marketeer would have the same tools at their disposal? And that's where the thinking was, oh my God, can you imagine how much can we accelerate the ability to create copy, to create new marketing materials, to validate, right, and approve cycles? I mean, I think that it's a very powerful tool. Again, in the right hands, it could come to the right conclusions. And now I'm going to switch back to your question before. How do I stay ahead? I mean, there are three things that come to mind. The one is, this is something you're not going to learn overnight. You need to dedicate time regularly. This is something where you need to spend time, ideally every week, to dive deep, to try new tools, to figure out what is latest and greatest. I mean, this field is changing so fast that you don't want to stay too far behind. The second one is join an AI community, and that's important. Try to find some of these top voice influencers. I guess I'm lucky because the majority of those who I know are women. So I think it's a great opportunity to learn from others and see what's going on. And most importantly, experiment constantly. I mean, don't stop trying. It's very common, it's natural to get the wrong results. I mean, you saw the first picture, I was not a lady, but then again, is keep on trying, right? What makes the perfect approach. So don't get discouraged by hallucination, by mistakes made by the system. Give it a try, improve it, and let it come to the right level of quality. Last but not least, and that's where I stop, I think it's important to think this is not technology for technology's sake, even though I'm a fan of technology. This is about focusing on solving real problems. And the real question for you is, what problem, right, would you like to go and solve? Let's figure out how AI can help you. And with that said, back to you, Sophie.
Thank you so much. Very exciting. I like this. I would say a way to work on pictures. I love to do some. I would say some souvenir albums, and this is definitely a new scheme and a new area for me. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing this, Dana. Let's have a little bit, you tell us the narrative of your journey and your tip to stay ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Sophie. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you for all your contribution to my life as a mentor and as a manager in the past. So thank you for inviting me. This is a great opportunity for me to actually talk about two things that I'm very passionate about, AI and technology. I can say that today I feel very much authentic when I talk about technology for the first time since 9 years in Microsoft, because I truly adopted technology. I now feel that the technology is embedded in my life, and AI has a great piece in it. And the second topic is gender equality. And I believe this is so important because it's going to take us hundreds of years to get to a real equality. And I really hope that thanks to everybody's effort, and I personally deal with it every day, the two and the combination of the two will also help us to narrow the gap and narrow the inequality that we see in tech and in general in many industries. So I'm passionate about these two topics. I'll be happy to share more examples. But going back to the narrative of what's driving me in my career, it's very much about planning. I'm coming from a finance background. So I spent 13 years in P&G in finance, and then 3 years in Microsoft as CFO in my first role. And 6 years ago, I moved into the business. And the fact that I'm saying planning, it's relying on my past and where I feel comfortable and the skills that I've learned as a finance person, a lot of it thanks to P&G. So I plan my career, but I'm also making sure that I'm developing new skills. For example, AI and technology, and I will talk about it later. But the combination of the planning plus learning new skills all the time, and then also hope for some luck when you look for the next move in your life, and relying on the system and relying on the people were the few things that helped me. And I want to illustrate it via an example from my life in my career. So after closing 3 years as a CFO in Microsoft, I've decided that it's time for me to look into roles in the business. I remember calling one of the managers I really looked up to, which was a female leader that led all the headquarters in Microsoft Middle East and Africa at that time. And I asked her, I would like to become a COO one day. Can I apply? Do I have the right fit for it? And she said no, which today I appreciate very much, because she said no, but we will teach you. You're not yet there, but we will take and teach you about the business and how to lead technology. You need to learn sales. You need to learn technology. And going back to my point about planning, looking into the next role, developing new skills in the intermediate role that I've taken in the headquarters, thanks to this wonderful leader, and also some luck, because there was an opportunity that helped me get into this role and enjoy the ride. So this is what I wanted to share about the narrative. Going back to you, Sophie.
Thank you so much. Very inspiring. Thank you for mixing a little bit and bringing, I would say, the inspiration from mentorship and really looking up at people that try to, I would say, help and advise. I think today what is really powerful is indeed not to be, I would say, alone in the quest to question. So yes, we have people for sure, but sometimes it's a little bit, I would say, intimidating, or not necessarily, I would say, obvious to go and ask or to think about something. And this is where I see, and that's why we call this, we decided with the team to call this session my new digital companion, because indeed in a way, we are not alone anymore to ask those type of questions in order to go to the next level. So, my dear Raquel, we are excited to have you here. You were a few weeks ago in Cannes, of course, talking about AI, as a marketeer, talking about persona, and overall having, again, few projects in your big bag. And we would love to hear a little bit from you now, from an introduction about your journey, and one or two examples that you keep in order to stay ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Sophie, Dana, and Simon. So great to be with you all today to talk about this very important topic. I guess in terms of, through line, if I had to make a movie about my life so far, I would, call it kind of curiosity meets challenge, to get to the intersection of wow. And why I say that, I mean, is like, how do you create opportunities in your professional life and your personal life that actually allow you to, be your complete best self and enjoy the ride. And I think AI is something that is really helping us, from taking a great photo in Brooklyn Bridge to, ambition to be COO, really is helping us to lift ourselves to get to that wow. And my journey actually started as an accountant. I spoke to Dana a week ago talking about my early days at Ernst & Young and Price Waterhouse, and then fell in love with P&G and marketing, and sort of never looked back. So, spent time at P&G, J&J, a couple of other great brands, as well as a consulting, and then spent 10 years in the story-making factory that is Paramount and Time Warner, and then started Equity, which is brand strategy, and about to launch Madison & Wall in Q4, which is a platform for financial skills for CMOs. So, really trying to always look at where we can get to that great balance and great intersection of short-term and long-term, creative and analytical, thinking about, challenges that are perhaps one-dimensional versus multidimensional. And I think what's so exciting about AI, it is that it gives our brains the fuel to be even more ambitious, to be even more creative, to use human ingenuity to a higher level, like never before. And, that's something I have been passionate about. I've been writing about it. I wrote around the topic of AI being the accelerant for human ingenuity, but AI is nothing without human ingenuity. So I use the term AI-HI. Ahi sounds like tuna, but it's not. So it's artificial intelligence for human ingenuity, saying we need the AI to stretch ours as humans, to think bigger, dream bigger, and achieve bigger. And so that's kind of the theme that I really try to think across, and the way that I, ensure, as like, let's say we've got the Olympics going on right now in Paris, and if you think of yourself as an athlete or a marketing or a finance or operations athlete, how do you stay fresh? How do you stay on top? And one of the ways that I do that, like Simon mentioned, is following the right influencers and being in their orbit, being in their community. So one person I would recommend to the team was Ethan Mullock. He is a professor at Wharton, and he does a great newsletter that actually captures the latest news of what's happening in AI in a very digestible form. And I'll add that to the chat as soon as I'm done speaking. So he's a great person to follow. Another great person is a gentleman called Paul Roetzer, who actually leads the AI Marketing Institute. And that's another person who also creates great weekly podcasts called AI Marketing Institute that actually gives you the latest on what's going on. And I think that is one part, listening and learning. The other is doing. Experimenting is a key part of this. And one of the things that I'll talk about later is how do you make sure that you just don't hear about the apps, whether it's Perplexity or whether it's Claude or whether it's Midjourney, but actually go into it and try it. Many of them are on a freemium model. You don't have to fork out money. You can just try the base model and do exactly what Simon did, which was experiment, whether it's with images or with stories or with video, and really get on top of that to understand that what we're looking at with this technology is a new way of doing things, and absolutely fundamental systemic change to business as usual. This is bigger than the Industrial Revolution. In a way, it's bigger than fire and the wheel that was invented, because AI keeps changing and morphing and getting more powerful as we use it. Bloomberg says $1.3 trillion by 2032, compound growth rate of over 40% in terms of all the sales of software and hardware and Microsoft and all the other, technologies that are part of this. So listen, surround yourself with influencers, and go out there and try it, and share your experiences with others. And I will add the title of the articles that I wrote in the chat as well. So you can, keep going on that great journey. Thanks, Sophie.
That's so exciting. Thank you to all of you. I'm already very excited. Not only me, by the way, because all the people, we received some questions about where are the links? Can you put the links? So yes to all of you. Of course, we give you the links. Of course, you will get all the reference in the chat. Either I put it or Elsie or the panelists. No worry. We put them as we go. Okay, so thank you to all of you for I would say your enthusiasm. So I think that there is one thing that I find very inspiring, which is true, which is listening, asking what others are doing with AI, practicing, so doing, and indeed not being satisfied, a little bit like never satisfied with the statu quo. There is always a better way. Either it's obvious because the picture doesn't really resonate with what you wanted, or because I use it a lot in order, for example, to make sure that, in some instances, I use the right vocabulary when it is not professional, when it is personal. So, for example, when it's a bit more protocol type of vocabulary, and then using the machine that is very well trained. So I must confess, can I say it, Dana, or we say that they will think we are prepared? Copilot is definitely one of my best friends. Now it's a girl for me, so I have decided to call her a she. Probably because I read the numbers, but it's true that it's very inspiring to see how fast and how precise and elegant can be the writing, not necessarily for work for sure, but here it's more, to have certain languages that you are not familiar with. So now what I would like to get in a little bit into is some pretty specific, I would say, topics. So let's start with Simon. Look, we've been on a journey together for a long time. Recently, even more accelerated with all this digital and AI, and me being really, I would say, inspired by what you do. When we talked, your immediate focus was intriguing. It was very nice because you told me, Sophie, when I think about AI and you ask me AI, I think about limitless time saver. And, I loved it because limitless, some of you know me very well, it's sky is the limit. So limitless talks to me. And time saver, because I would love, like all of us, I think that a day has 48 hours or maybe 72 or I don't know, 100 or whatever it is. And I found this extremely powerful. I can say, I want to know it all. So tell us a little bit more and give us one or two concrete examples in your daily personal or professional, I would say, life, how you are, I would say, how and what type of agent or AI you are using for this concept of limitless time saver that I like so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sophie. Listen, I'm going to share with you a couple of examples, and again within the confidentiality of this community, right? I'm trying to keep it safe just to protect the privacy of some of our customers in the past. So I'm going to start with a professional example to illustrate the concept, and then I will bring it home in a more personal way. And two of my first, I would say, AI projects at scale, they started with one of the largest CPG companies on earth, right? One of the challenges that they had at the time was that they were receiving the equivalent of 60,000 hours of phone calls, customer service, right? Which is a lot. You don't have enough agents to go and deal with all of that volume of information at any point in time. And they were looking for a solution, right, in order to process some of that information. So I asked them the question, how many of those calls do you actually answer? And the answer that I got was less than 2%. We have 16 agents, that's what we have, and we only can handle this amount of capacity. And then I said, well, there must be a better way. There must be a way to automate, to simplify, to bring that to the next level. Guess what? One of the things that we were testing at the time, and again, I'm talking of 5 years ago, so it was still early days, was the idea of using generative AI in order to capture the content of those calls, right? Transcribe what was happening in there, and then being able to translate in a language that the system could understand. Funnily enough, the customers were French Canadian speakers, and the system was not able to understand them. So there was no translation at the time available, and we needed to find out a way not only to capture the information, but most importantly, and this is where it started getting exciting, with sentiment analysis, identifying which of those 60,000 hours of calls require for immediate attention. So it's not only about handling the 2%, but it's not any 2% of calls, it's the right 2% of calls, the priority calls, letting the system handling the rest. So understanding across the totality of the 60,000 hours of content, which content requires action, which content requires to be qualified or archived, and which content requires to be, thank you, discarded or put in the back burner. And this for me was an aha moment, because we move away from 60,000 hours of unheard calls into, I'm kidding you not, a couple of hours of running the system and going through all of that consumer-generated content. That was fascinating. So that's one example of how, even if you have unlimited number of humans, right, that's probably not the smartest way to use your capacity allocation. Now, that was a professional example with one customer. And again, I could talk of the technology and the apps behind the scenes. It was a sophisticated solution for a call center. Nowadays is packaged as a product and is sold by my former employer. But there is a personal aspect to that. And that's where I came to, my capacity is limited. And there is only so much I can get done in a given day. So one of the ways to look at things was, how can I become more productive? How can I do more with less? But one of the big, again, brains in the community of AI experts was saying, probably we're approaching the problem the wrong way. It's not about doing more of the same that you're doing today. It's doing things different from how you're doing them today. So instead of, oh, I can do a copy in a fraction of the time and then I'm done, probably now you have the opportunity to go through that copy, review it, go through a second, a third interaction, and get a much higher qualitative level of engagement in the first round, still in a fraction of the time. So it's changing the entire process to get to an outcome. And that's where, from a personal point of view, the question that we need to ask ourselves is not, how can I do more of the same? Is how can I do more of those things that I'm good at, of those things that really I take pleasure of, and I could get, I would say, more bang for my buck. And ultimately, that's where the concept of limitless came to life. Imagine that you have unlimited amount of time to do the things that you like the most, the things that you're best at doing. And that's when you realize, oh, I don't know, I like to be creative and make pictures. Well, now I have a system that enables me to be as creative as I can and create as many pictures as I can in a fraction of the time that I could have done before. Or you gave the example, Copilot, I think is a great starting point. Back in the days, I remember when we started with the grammar correction tool in Word, people said, oh, you must be cheating, right? That you're getting it so straight the first time around. Well, guess what? That's now an industry standard. What I foresee is Copilot, similar to what Grammarly did in their days, is helping you out as your personal digital companion into optimizing every outcome that you produce, into helping you completing those phrases, right, as you're writing them. And fundamentally, it's transforming the way how contents and documents are being created. It's not about giving the task to somebody else to do it. It's by making your process of making that content much more seamless, much more richer. And I think that Dana said it, and again, I don't want to steal your thunder. You never have to start again from a white piece of paper. I mean, you have someone by your side that is helping you fulfilling and going faster than ever before. And with that said, I pass it back to you, Sophie.
Thank you so much. I think that indeed this notion of limitless in the personal day-to-day life, I think it's pretty powerful. How many times we were on vacation, we were thinking about, we have good time with family, with friends, we take some pictures, and then so be it. Some a bit geek were doing albums, some others were forgetting it. And still people not being able to refresh memory or to find them back. Today, what is really exciting, and no matter with which, I would say, which agent we are using. I mean, of course, we like very much Microsoft, but we have few others, and Raquel has a list of benchmark that she will share with us also. What is really powerful is the pleasure of using what technology has to offer in order to create visual or words or even letters or memories just in the family landscape is extremely at a fingertip and very easy to do. And I think that's probably redesign a little bit how we spend our time also, and how we can, I would say, within this, amount of time we have. Personally, I put the focus on personal also. It's end July, so it's soon for some people vacation. So that it's how do we leverage that in order to do more of what we like, online or face to face. That's not really the topic today. So that's brings me to I would say what we had talked a little bit, Dana, when I visited you in your so impressive Microsoft Office, Global Office in Israel, to prepare the session. And you told me in a very, you explained it a little bit at the introduction that this is really boosting your daily routine. And you said something that was nice, that of course caught my attention. You told me it allows me to be imperfectly perfect. And I like that because in a way, all of us somewhere want to be perfect. No matter what, it can be super mom, super dad, it can be super, person at work, super friend, to have all kinds of superpower. But at the same time, life is not perfect. So this imperfection concept, for some of us, is very difficult to accept. But what I found extremely inspiring is that, digital and AI give us a chance to live okay with this imperfect, I would say perfect. So tell us a little bit more on this concept, Dana.
Sure. So look, and if I'm not mistaken, I've stolen it with pride from a theme of Pantene copies at that time. If I'm not mistaken, that was the theme behind the hair is always imperfectly perfect. Look, I meet a lot of customers, a lot of partners, a lot of individuals, and I'm starting to create my own IP, let's say, of where to start, of providing some tips. And one of them is what I've shared with Sophie about imperfectly perfect. Luckily, I'm not a perfectionist. If someone in the crowd is, or in our audience, I cannot help you, I'm sorry. But luckily, I'm not. And it is a similar concept of the 80-20. We are investing 20% of our effort in order to produce 80% of what we need. We shouldn't invest the extra 80% in order to complete the 20 that sometimes are not needed. As an example, I'd like to share with you a few more concepts, but also to share it with examples. So for the imperfectly perfect, I would like to share an example of creating a forecast today in Microsoft. Part of my role today as COO is to invest, is to commit, is to drive accountability within our organization. And in order to do that, we need to rely on forecast. What we've done in the past years, and when I joined Microsoft 9 years ago, I had a huge team of 5 people creating forecasts, working in forecasting, talking to people, understanding the situation, providing also reporting, etc. When I exited the CFO role, thanks to technology and relying on AI, it was yet before the Gen AI, but it was based on AI, we could have relied on forecasting with a 0.something% that provided me this service from our headquarters in Dubai. And how? Because we were relying on machine learning, taking statistics, taking close rate of sellers, putting some intelligence into the machine in order to take a decision. I remember that usually you get the salespeople are very much saying we cannot achieve the targets, they're too high. The marketeers are coming and saying these are the best product they've ever seen. And then as finance or someone that takes accountability on the focus, we need to judge. So machine learning really helped me a lot, and it's not perfect. You still you cannot not rely on ourselves, on our skills, on our experience, but it gave me a lot of insights in order to rely on the forecasts. Today it's even accelerating with Gen AI. We can do even more, but I'd like to give more examples. You referred before, Simon, to another let's call it tip that I've developed recently, which I call it never start from a blank page again. Think about the times in P&G when we used to sit and write, I don't know if it's still the name, WDPs, and these annual work plans and priorities, looking back at what we have achieved and looking forward in what we're going to prioritize for the coming months. 2 weeks ago, I had a review with my manager summarizing the year. I went to the Copilot, and in the past, I used to spend 2 days starting from a blank page, writing the narrative, looking into the results, collecting it from many data points. Today, a few weeks ago, I entered my Copilot and I asked Copilot to summarize Dana's impact in the past 6 months, relying on business results, my projects that I've led also out of my current role, etc., etc. And Copilot brought me, I wouldn't say to the 80%, but to the 60% start. And this saves me a lot of time, and I could work on that. Which leads me to the next thought about it, which is about edit and not create. Sometimes we need to put our ego aside and to say, okay, I can be also an editor, an excellent editor, but not create new content. And I'll give you another example from this week. I saw that the Olympics managed to get to a 50-50 representation with the athletes in Paris, which is an amazing achievement. And if you look at my LinkedIn, you can see I recently posted a post about it. It took me less than 5 minutes to write the post. Why? Because I also used Copilot. I asked Copilot I gave a brief to Copilot to write for me a LinkedIn post about the equality that this amazing organization managed to reach with 50-50 in Paris. And also add a flavor of tech, add some data. I clicked, I wasn't very happy, I improved, I became a prompt engineer myself, and I will put a link in the chat after I finish to give you some ideas of cool prompts you can all use. And I improved my post based on this technology, even hashtags it offered me. And think about how much time it saves us while only editing and not creating. It saved me time to go and look for the right hashtags. I don't know the hashtags of Paris Olympics these days. It gave me a proposal. It gave me a personal view. And this was about the editing and not creating. And the last piece I wanted to share, and will give the stage to the rest of my friends here and colleagues, is about boost your daily routine. Sophie, you mentioned before, look, as someone that is in charge from in the daily routine of the organization to make sure that we take the vision and bring it to the daily execution, I rely a lot on technology. Today, I'm not summarizing or not asking my team to summarize anything. I'm just co-piloting the summary. I'm also can ask tables with who should do what by when. I know it's not as a celebrative point as the others, but we should all start somewhere and just jump to the water, into the water, and just rely on that. And remember that it's not perfect, and we need to bring our thoughts and insights on top. Back to you, Sophie.
Wow, so we have a great list. I mean, edit, not create, boost your daily routine, imperfect, perfect. I mean, I think you gave us a lot of energy. Doing the WNDP, asking the machine is probably will not occur to me, but this is definitely a dream come true. Really, please don't hesitate to put in the chat, I would say, the link so that everybody can get access, because it is really exciting. We have few questions, so some are being answered. I saw that, Simon, you answered one. We will answer them, no worry, as we go. I'm going first to, I would say, to ask Raquel a little bit to share with us, I would say, some very inspiring way to I would say, to look at AI. You know, I mean, Raquel, you are one of the most I would say, digital and AI savvy person I know. I think I told it at the beginning, there is not one conversation we have where you are not at the forefront. It's very inspiring because a lot you are using in your company, your own company. You are a fabulous entrepreneur. You are also a master in big corps, and never, I would say, without this technology and the AI eyes. Which is very helpful for all of us because I think it shows the brace and the scope. When we were preparing, you highlighted something I liked very much, and if you need the slides, I will upload them, don't worry. You highlighted a simplified framework for work and personal life in order to have AI helping you. And it shows that personally, I loved really the personal one with the facts, the fun, the fantasy, and the stretching imagination. I was wondering if you wanted to share a little bit more with us the way I would say you have built this framework and how it can help our audience that is very passionate and active. And then I'll have a little question for you after.
Sure. Thank you, Sophie. You know, AI can be quite intimidating because there is so much of opinions, facts, evidence, proof, all different types of data just flying everywhere about this new ecosystem. And depending on where you sit, you will feel like you're drinking out of a fire hose because there's so much information and what's facts, what's not real, what's a real good app, what is not. And so to help, make what's complex a little simple, developed a way of thinking about it to just puts our arms around this big world of AI and make it our own. And essentially, what I call it taming the AI jungle. It's something that I shared with a client early this week, and really it's really saying, okay, if we just were to just simplify it to the real bare bones, we have our work life and then we have our personal life. And so essentially, if we just think about kind of all the things that are out there, if we think about work, one of the big generative AI use cases obviously has been AI assistants. That's the ChatGPTs, Microsoft Copilot, Gemini, Perplexity, Claude, all those that, we input information to make a request for knowledge, for, greater insight. What Dana talked about in terms of, never starting with a blank page and how to think through, ideas and problems and getting knowledge. We're very familiar with that. Most of us, you can raise your hand in the chat or tell us have tried some kind of AI assistant. The other sort of block, if you like, is what I'm calling problem solving, which is basically where, there's a specific problem to be solved that Simon mentioned in his opening, looking at this from the point of view of job to be done. So maybe it's you want to develop new content, perhaps you want to optimize new content or personalize it. There's an app for that, so it is everything from image, video, moving images, motion graphics, to just, plain old text. And we have different content development tools from Canva, Midjourney for images, or Jasper for, writing your next newsletter. And there's no stoppage of how many different apps we have under content. We also have customer experience, employee productivity, process optimization. And under each of these are just some examples of problems to be solved. There are multiple choices that you have. And your job is to really test those out and make recommendations within your organization. And one of the best practices is to actually have someone anointed, kind of as the AI tester, someone who hears about a new app, tries it, and then makes recommendation. And that's kind of one of their big jobs. The other big bucket around work is customized. And that's where, you see application of AI into what is value creation of a business. So, personalized user recommendation. Netflix is an AI-powered company. It doesn't just dabble in AI. It is completely from every touch point in their value chain AI driven, from deciding on which movies to produce, to user recommendations, to looking at how they create sort of the most optimal e-commerce chain. And so that is an example of sort of customized, where it's specific foundational models in the LLMs that they then use to create a very, very customized solution to a very customized problem. Or in the case of Netflix and Spotify, it is core to their business. And so that's kind of work, and it's a very broad brush. There's other ways you can cut and slice it, but just for simplicity, that's kind of one of the ways to look at it. And in terms of your personal life, we are using AI as well. But facts would be like everyday things you need to do: household expenses, household finance, meal times, to-do list, your children's soccer game checklist, so there's applications for that, the facts of what you need to do in your day-to-day. There's fun, so everything from using crayon to DALL-E to create images. Simon gave us an example of fun with the Brooklyn Bridge image generation. And then there's something that I'm stretching and calling fantasy, and I have two examples in the next two slides, which are fun ways of actually using AI to stretch the imagination further. So one of them is called Nostalgia AI, which you can take an old image of your great grandfather or grandmother, and then they make it in color and video. So suddenly it becomes like a crossover of two things coming together, using Sophie's word, where you can have fun and stretch your imagination. Another one is on storytelling, which is also a lot of fun, which is Dream Gen, which allows you to dream ideas of stories and write these stories with AI. So these are kind of like the edge cases of like fantasy and fun. So I give this to you really to help, and you can create your own frameworks and add more things to it and experiment. But one of the biggest challenges we face with AI is the vastness of it, the veracity at which and the velocity at which it changes every day. New things come in, new things get sunset. So it's really saying, okay, how do I put my head around kind of what's going on? And then say to yourself, okay, so where am I? Who am I in this AI jungle, right? And one of the things that I also have written about, and was the topic of our discussions in Cannes, was personas. So really around as a leader in business, do you have the repertoire and the ability to understand across different personas, not just perhaps you're from finance background or CEO like Dana, or e-commerce and commercial like Simon, or more marketing, whatever it is, do you have the ability to toggle between different personas? Because that's what AI is going to force us to do. It's going to make us want to think differently around not only our function, but understanding enough of other functions. So sales chain, sales supply chain, R&D, market research, and really adopt, what I call kind of the ability to have the T skills, which is a term that was used by McKinsey some years ago. So ability to see across different functionality, and of course, be very deep in terms of your functionality. So terms like data virtuoso, perhaps you are not so much of an analyst or a data scientist. You don't have to be. You just need to know the exact drivers of that and how to ask the right questions. Or a change architect. Change management is one of the biggest skills that are going to be needed in any AI implementation, because it's more than a technology transformation. It is a human behavior transformation. And so you're going to need change management. So are you a change architect? Can you speak the language of change? Are you a relationship catalyst, developing relationships across the C-suite? Or if you are in a leadership line role across your teams, across geography, across functions? Tech, a tech guru is also going to be very important. Understanding the key questions on what the technology can do. You don't need to be a computer scientist to be an ability to ask the right questions AI. You just have to be curious, and you have to use your ability to imagine combinations and connections, ask questions, and learn from those who are doing it already. Like, for example, within Dana's team at Microsoft, asking the questions of what else Copilot can do, stretching yourself, having the confidence to ask those questions because you know enough to ask and to be challenged and to challenge. So that's important. And lastly, government and finance. finance and governance are really critical, because every investment you make has to show an ROI and payback. That's what my next company, Madison Wall, is going to focus on, and arming our marketers on how to speak the language of the CFO, speak the language of Wall Street in terms of valuation, in terms of payback, in terms of, brand equity and what that looks like on the balance sheet when a brand's acquired. So, needing to have enough knowledge across these areas for you to then be able to become what I call a fully, powerful, super, C-suite executive or rising C-suite executive that can make a difference and, really commands the credibility, has the gravitas when you enter the room where people seek your opinion out. So those are just kind of some of the ideas that, I wanted to share, in a nutshell: learn, experiment, do, learn, experiment, do, every time.
Wow, what a program. What a program. So first and foremost, I would say what we are safe. We don't all need to be a data scientist. So that's already good news from what I understand. Change architect is probably a very inspiring one, to make sure that we can, I would say, cope with change management with a transformation. I think what you are touching here is a very, I would say, deep point for all the professions. And now that we are within the alumni community, people are very, very, I would say, in all kinds of profession. What is very central is change management. No matter if it is a small company, a big company, if you are in the medical field now, in the whatever field, I think that's a very powerful, I would say, statement. The second one is about, I would say, the combination of curiosity and creativity to combine with governance and finance. I think this seems counterintuitive. You know how much I think finance and corporate governance is key. And I think that's also a very powerful, I would say, topic that AI is bringing us. There was a question about ethics that was answered by Simon in the Q&A that was there, and it's very linked also. Now, we have a question some of them have been already answered live. So thank you for asking, for the people who asked. Thank you very much. Thank you for answering, Simon. Raquel, you have a question for you. Knowing that you're attending Cannes Lions this year. So yes, she attended. And by the way, stay tuned to the next alumni newsletter, because there is a great article from Raquel over there. Raquel, could you please share your thoughts on the presence and integration of AI at the event? How widely has AI been embraced in the industry based on what you observed?
Mm-hmm. AI certainly was a leading character in the play at Cannes, because obviously every large holding company, agency, ad tech, and brands wanted to talk about like their claim to fame. What I found was really two sort of stories, right? You had the story of a lot of talk about it and perhaps some examples, and then you had like solid business case examples. And one of them that was presented at the Cannes Lions Procter & Gamble Alumni panel that I moderated was actually the Grand Prix winner from Mars Pet Care, and that was represented by Nigel Tita Reid, who is the CMO at Mars Pet Care, where they actually used AI to create interest and engagement around adopting dogs by having them displayed using out of home as a platform, dogs that were beautifully rendered, if you like, on these bus shelters and across different key outdoor locations for people to decide to adopt on the spot. So if I saw Fluffy, my Bichon Frisé, and I liked it and it was one of the adopted dogs, I adopted it, and then that dog went out of circulation because it is now my adopted dog. So the program was called Adoptables, and it drove significant engagement. It used AI to create the basic opportunity to showcase all these different lovable but dogs with no homes, and create a fantastic platform for the brand Pedigree. And so it's really an example of a business case that really tapped into social impact as well, in terms of looking after these neglected dogs and giving them a very loving home. And of course, it won the Grand Prix. So that was an example of AI in action that really did make a big difference. Year before that, we had also talked about the work MasterCard has been doing, and given the world and what's going on right now, they actually used AI to help link refugees in Poland with job opportunities. And they did that by taking into data around locations that actually had openings for jobs, looked at the population and overlaid that with population data around where the refugees were settling, and gave them some indication of where the best chances were to actually make a livelihood. And so, those are some of the examples of some great AI use cases that were in Cannes this year and last year. And what we find is that the winners, the brands that are using AI effectively, see it as a tool to solve a very human problem. They don't see it as, let's see the tool and let's just, create something just because AI looks and sounds sexy. It's really around, what is the problem to be solved? And can we use AI by asking the right questions in terms of the problem to be solved, whether it is a lack of knowledge or knowledge asymmetry, like the MasterCard Poland example, or whether it is the speed to get to an image and create emotion and excitement around adopting a new dog. So we saw lots of examples. I did do some capture of those examples in some of my articles, which I will add to the chat as well. I would love to hear from folks, like, what are they doing in terms of how they're approaching AI? The most important thing I will say is, just make sure that you're very clear on the problem to be solved, and experiment in small bets in terms of how you can solve that problem. Win on those bets, get management support, and they say, wow, you really have moved the needle, perhaps on productivity, perhaps on some efficiency, and then you get your followers and your fans, allowing you then to ask for more budget, and bigger things. The other key thing that always we get asked for as well, and I wanted to highlight, covered this week with my client, is on prompting and how important that is. It is a science and an art. It is not just dumping what's in your brain and then asking follow-up questions. It's kind of like, again, going back to Simon's example, refining the first output by asking the smart questions. And so we developed a theme, if you like. It's an acronym that we're using here at Equity. With some of our clients, we're trying to understand, okay, how do we do this? And we call it Smart AI. We've got it like plastered, somewhere near our screens, to say, okay, each time I'm prompting ChatGPT or Copilot, like, what are the things I have to remember in terms of, being very specific about your request and being accurate, and to get their accurate responses, no jargon, no acronyms, add details in terms of, I want, specifically, let's say, a description of a bridge in this way with the sunset, etc. Adding those details, saying to the AI that imagine yourself to be an artist, or imagine yourself to be a social media manager, or imagine yourself to be a finance CFO. How would you answer this question? So give them a role. Make sure you're targeting your language is very clear and precise, no fluff, and don't use language like it could be or should be, but be very, very intentional in your language. And of course, you have to keep, it's like, a pot, being a crafts person and crafting, let's say, or carving a beautiful sculpture out of wood or out of clay, and you have to like chisel and just, till you get it completely right. So just something I wanted to share. It's a very practical thing we do every day, and practice makes perfect. The more you do it, the better you get.
That's wonderful. So you had it, so probably you've managed to take a picture, because Raquel was was kind enough to have it via slide. So as we move forward and we are on our way to conclude soon, I would like to ask, I would say, each of you, and I would like to start with you, Simon. A lot of people are asking me every day, do you have a tip? You know, the number of people I meet that are looking for a job, all of us at some point in time look for a job anyway, or for some clients and so on. And there is this famous kind of resume and what is the output and so on, and some help. So I think you shared with me two types of, I would say, advice and what was going on. The first thing was, I think, a wonderful, I would say, example and app that has also a nice story from an alumni standpoint. So I think I would like you to, as we are concluding, to give us a little bit your advice as far as this is concerned, and also what is cool about it. And then I will ask all of you, what is the cool trend that are coming, the cool stuff that is ahead, so that you can share with us and our audience as a conclusion, I would say, some exciting stuff. So Simon, would you like to share a little bit what you shared with me?
Amazing. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the question, Sophie. I will try to be both concise, because there is a lot in that question, but also try to answer both your briefing as well as a couple of questions I saw from the audience that I definitely want to make sure that they get the proper attention. So the first thing is, and I think that you have one slide for that. This is an example of an application built by a former colleague of mine. The application is called Resume Optimizer. And for those of you who are familiar with it, the application was developed on a platform called Party Rock. What Party Rock does is that it builds generative AI applications with no code, okay? So this is a no-code solution. She entered into the platform, she briefed the platform to produce the Reduce Optimizer, and this is the outcome of her work on it. Her name is Victoria Seaman, by the way. She's another influencer, successful AI top voice in LinkedIn. If you want to follow her, I'm more than happy to provide the links as part of the follow-up. And the one thing that you need to know is that nowadays, employers are not expecting for you to have one CV, one resume to be sent time and over again. The more we go into this journey, the more you need to adapt, right, your profile and your experiences to the expectations of the role. And this is exactly what this application does. It compares the description of the role that you're looking for as the input with your resume, and as an outcome, it gives you the match percentage, right, of your profile to the role. What are your strength and weakness compared to what the employer is looking for? And then is giving you specific tips on how to improve your CV, okay? I want to add an additional layer. If you look at the career advisor at the end, if you prompt it right, it also gives you a full recommendation on how to rewrite your entire resume if that's what you're looking for. So be reassured, very handy, very practical. And again, I'm more than happy to share with you both the application. The links are going to be in the handovers, and the contacts to Victoria Seaman, which again is a former colleague of mine who developed the application in the first place, if you want to follow her on LinkedIn. So that's point number one. Can you switch gears to the next slide, Sophie, just for a second? I think that there was another question, and this was our dear Paul Sobon, good friend and former manager and mentor of mine, so someone who I admire and respect a lot. He asked, do we have an application to help us managing our time? Well, guess what? For those of you who had the chance to join the last P&G Signal event, there was a former P&G employee, so a P&G alumni. Her name is Maddie Bell, so another successful woman. She's the CEO of a company called Scheduler AI. And what she did is exactly what Paul asked for. So build an AI application to help you managing your calendar, to help you managing and optimizing, right, your time. So I think it's a great opportunity to showcase the work of the community, and a great opportunity to showcase, I don't want to say the ease, but how approachable, right? how relatively simple it is to enter into this space, to play around with some of the tools, and to make the best use, right, of them in order to solve your individual business problems. If you're lucky, I mean, they might be somebody else's problems, and therefore, I think it's a great opportunity to create your own business out of it. And one final thought is I mentioned a couple of books to read on the left-hand side. The one that you see at the top is probably the basic for beginners example. The next three are more diving deeper into some of the more polemics, ethics related, politics, what's going to be the future of AI and the role that it's going to play in society. The last one I personally found interesting because it's not only about AI per se, but it's about the use of AI to improve carbon footprint, how to use AI for good and for a better, greener planet. So I think, again, the sky is the limit. Someone asked the question, I mean, can we solve big conceptual, abstract problems with AI? Well, if we prompt it well, right, and we follow through with them, the answer is absolutely why not. It might need some follow through just to make sure the accuracy of the answers are there, no hallucinations in the process. But definitely, this is a great starting point for solving some of the humanity biggest problems out there. And the last piece is I offer for you help to join a community. I mentioned 5 of the top voices in AI. Ali Miller, former colleague of mine, Kosi Croft. I think that she was the data scientist, the first data scientist at Google. Woodcratch is one of the first most advanced data scientists in Facebook as well, all leading companies in this space. And 2 more names. Actually, Luisa is based in Israel as well. And Kaliubi is a PhD into the topic of AI. So again, all of them women, all of them successful, and again, good, great, inspirational leaders in this area. I'm going to post there any comments, any questions.
So far we are good in terms of question. We have a lot of thank you. Hi to Didier Rossi saying hi.
Salut, Didier.
And some of you want reference at a later time. Tanya, okay, we will anyway. It will be you will have the slide deck also, so no stress about that. So I think we are good. What I would like to first is to definitely, I would say, thank all of you. As we conclude, I absolutely want to hear from each of you. So, and especially, I would say, Dana and Raquel. So, what is going to be, I would say, cool ahead, since you're really in the, I would say, in the trends, and each of you with very different, I would say, lenses. So, what should we be watching? And then what is your advice? I mean, we understood, even if we are not a data engineer, we have a chance. Okay, so that's good news. That's very good news. We can handle, I would say, extreme, like finance, governance, and creativity and curiosity. We better enjoy and embrace change, be it an architect or whatever, but we'd better be over there. And we have a lot of people to be inspired from. After this seminar, women are a little bit, I would say, definitely, as you said, Simon, also probably now equal in the use of AI, hopefully. And yeah, to conclude, I would really very much like to hear, maybe Dana, you tell us a bit what's coming, and also your tip or advice.
Sure. So, look, I think a lot about the future of work and the future of roles. We talked about personas in different companies. I'm thinking about looking into the future and what would be the right, let's say, planning for my kids on what should they go study, what will be the new skills of the future. Maybe asking questions. I don't know what will be. Think about the future of work, And also, what can we do with our free time? Because for me, at least, it helps me to balance better my life. So I need to think about what else can I do with the free time that is there. Either reinvest it into the work, or reinvest it into a beginner's blessing, I call it, of trying new stuff. For example, design by yourself, or prompt, or do other things, or just enjoy the free time and read a book. So I'm thinking about the future of work and the skills for my kids and what should they go study. And because I think it will be revolutionize the way the professions, or the way we're going to think about the future of roles, and also about what should I do with my free time thanks to the technology.
That's wonderful. I love this question. This is really powerful. Thank you. So future of skills. I mean, very timely for those who have children. Wonderful. Raquel. So on your side, we understood that you have a big project coming up, Q4. Coming, but tell us what's coming, your best tip so that we stay ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to spend the time on the resources that Simon and Dana have highlighted, in terms of what's happening in terms of AI news, following the influencers that were shared. I think, you don't need to spend hours and hours. You just have to skim and just know what's going on. I think two of the exciting things that, in the last, 48 hours that's been happening in the space is the rise of the AI agent, which is really saying the AI agent that mimics you, because Instagram are launching your ability for you to show up in your AI form. Therefore look, sound like you, and basically be driven by the machine. And there's a lot of ethical and governance questions around that, and a lot of challenges as well as potential opportunities. But we really need to be on top of what's going on with that. And I think the adoption by some of these technologies by Gen Z or the millennials or Gen Alpha even, is going to be very natural for them to adopt this and get onto it. And so I think we need to make sure that we are just as sharp, just as on top of it. I think there's also always discussion on AGI, which is basically artificial general intelligence, which is the ability for AI to, meet or even surpass human intelligence in terms of our reasoning, solving, perception, learning. And we need to be on top of what's happening with AGI, because AGI is something that needs to be managed very carefully. And then to the other extreme, you can look at kind of AI embodied in actual form factor robots, and Optimus, and what Elon Musk is doing, where he's going to create kind of your digital housekeeper who can do the washing for you, use Cascade, use Bounty, and you just can relax and perhaps sip some rosé in your beautiful pool while you've got the robotic housekeeper doing the work. I mean, those are things that are actually happening right now. If you read up on Optimus and what Musk is doing, it's really fascinating. So I think, staying on top of that, but most importantly, I would say that at the end of the day, realizing that all of this is only possible with human ingenuity. It's human ingenuity, and there are things that no machine can ever replicate. They can never replicate conscience. They can never replicate charisma. They can never replicate, our ability to be curious, and certainly our ability to imagine and, do things that have, stretched the boundaries of creativity. And so we need to really hold on very carefully to those human traits as we dive into the world of, the digital AI promise, and stay optimistic that even if jobs are reshuffled, which they will be, there'll be opportunities for everyone, but you've got to be in the game to win the game. So you've got to learn and do all the things that my esteemed panelists have said here on this call as well, and enjoy the ride, and keep us posted on what you learn.
Fabulous. To play the game, to win the game, to be in the game is definitely a very powerful word. We're going to conclude. I think, Simon, you have raised your hand, so you want to comment on something. I'm going to ask you one last round to each of you, very quick. one word, because it will be, so think about it. I want just one word so that it's also an impactful one. We'll do a bit of com with that. So Simon, you want to start?
Yes, but before I give you the one word, I wanted to answer one question that was on the air, and I suggested I wanted to answer briefly. There was a question from Paul Sobon asking about the lack of data to train models. And technically speaking, he's absolutely right, okay? One of the issues that we had is that in the past, there wasn't enough quality data to train the models so that the models could give some output. That's why a lot of people thought, oh, in order to get into AI, I need to become a data scientist, or I need to become an expert in big data handling and cloud and so on and so forth, which, by the way, is fascinating, but it's not for the faint of heart. It's not for everyone. So what we realize, and this is what we're seeing most of the examples today, generative AI is a very small subsegment of AI in general. So you can think of AI as a whole domain. Machine learning is a subdomain within AI. Within machine learning, you have deep learning, and within deep learning, you have generative AI, which is a very small fraction of it. Within the domain of generative AI, right, the big companies, they put the resources in order to capture all of the data, or a big chunk of the data. Some people said 40% of the internet, to train those large language models. And therefore, what we're seeing today is the byproduct of what OpenAI and Sam Altman started, I don't know, like, I wanted to say 2 years ago, which is when it went public, but in reality, it started back in 2017, 2019, when these guys started investing heavily into training those models. And the reason why I'm saying that is because even though what Paul says is absolutely right, truth being told, is a name. You do need data to start using some of, and that is exactly what is, and the discussions and the conversations. So that's one thought I wanted to leave with. It's good to have good quality data. It's important to train your models. Not everyone is going to build their own next large language model. Today, most of us as users are probably going to stay with whatever is available from these big companies, at least for the foreseeable future in terms of tips. And the second thought I wanted to leave you with is AI is not going to take your job. A lot of people come with that question to us. What's going to happen is that someone who knows how to use AI is going to do it, okay? And that's exactly where I joined Raquel when she said, you need to be in the game. You need to know the game. You need to be on top of these tools. Because tomorrow, the people who is not able to use the tools, the capabilities that we have at our disposal are the ones which are going to be relegated behind. Like if you think of, and again, with all due respect, that good old vice president or manager in a previous life who used to have their assistant printing their emails and reading through them. I mean, that's old-fashioned, old days, right? It's like trying to compete with a Ferrari or Lamborghini, and you're still by horse. So we need to catch up, and this is exactly where I think that we need to look at AI as a digital companion, as a technology that enables to superpower, to amplify your abilities, but this is what the marketplace is going to become. And I would say a common place for AI practitioners and passionates alike, right? Playing around with these tools and making the most out of them. And with that said, I pass it back to you.
Okay, one word still, one word, otherwise one word.
I love the way you frame superpower. This is exactly what it is all about.
Okay, cool. Dana, one word?
My word is passion, connecting everything I saw, heard, felt in the session today.
Superb. Raquel?
1 second. Audacity to dream big.
Audacity, beautiful, beautiful. With this conclusion, I cannot thank you all enough. Thank you to our, I would say, fabulous panelists. I learned a ton, and I had a lot of fun having you. I hope our audience too. Given the question and the enthusiasm, I think yes. So thank you very much for joining us. We will have everything available, of course, and looking forward to next series. So stay tuned. From a digital forum standpoint, we'll have a newsletter coming out, also with scan highlights. We'll have also a start of webinar series, and AI is going to be very central. From a Women Leadership Forum, we'll have also some new, I would say, panels, some on finance, some I would say on board, always linked also and powered by digital. And whoever wants to contribute, to volunteer, please message me on LinkedIn. That would be terrific. And we see all of you very soon. If some of you are already on vacation, enjoy. If some are planning vacation, then have a wonderful summer and see you very soon. Thank you very much to all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Thank you, everyone.